And congratulations to the graduates and to the faculty and staff and families and friends. I think it's kind of symbolic that we're all under the same beautiful tent. And it is a big tent to embrace us all. And as has been noted, nobody does this alone. And the graduates and all of us sitting here have worked together to bring us to this happy day. Graduations are very happy days. Well, you did it. And you did it in a new way. And you did it in a hard way. And I suggest you've achieved your degrees in a successful way. What's new about this? Well, you are on the cusp of a new way of achieving a graduate degree with online learning combined with short residency programs and, of course, everything else that's going on in your life. You really epitomize a revolution that is going on in higher education, not only for graduate degrees, but also for undergraduate degrees. So this is no ordinary commencement. I mean, you can't be sentimental about parties in the dorm. You never were in a dorm. And some of you were never even on this campus, I understand. And this is the first time you're meeting as a group. You know, to someone who graduated from the University of Massachusetts in 1956, this is a revolution. I won't tell you how life was then. You know, they would flick the lights if you didn't come in on time for the parietal hours. And not only that, you know, distance is no barrier. You're not commuters, you're commuters in a dramatically different way. And some of you come from all over the world. So your education is no longer limited to the circumference of a classroom or a college campus. You've created a global college campus, which expands access to education far beyond what any of us could have ever imagined. And not only have you changed where your education takes place, the subjects you have studied are radically different from what has been standard graduate school education. For example, the Master of Fine Arts includes emergent media. That's a subject that the rest of us are still perplexed by, and you're going to be the experts, which hopefully will teach people like me. Then the Master of Science in Law, a new field, managing innovation and information technology. Even standard degrees like business administration offer something different. I became introduced to the phrase integrated reflective practice, integrated reflective practice. And if there's time after the ceremony, somebody could tell me exactly what that means. But I understand it's putting together your current work environment and using it as a laboratory for learning. Now, I'm a great believer in the liberal arts. You know, I majored in history. I got a master's degree in English literature from the University of Vermont and a master's degree in journalism from Columbia. And I can tell you, I've used everything I've ever learned. But you're learning in a different way, but you will also use everything that you have ever learned, as you have just heard. Now, the idea of going back to school mid-career is very exciting. I did, without knowing I was doing something new, I did go back to school after I had 2 children and was pregnant with my third, and I sort of literally stood out. But it was uncommon then for people to go back to school at that time. Now, not only have you achieved your education in a new way, but you've also done it in a hard way. And as has been noted, after the day is done, after all the chores, your work life, to go to that computer when no doubt you're tired, or to wake up an hour or two earlier is hard. And unlike other college graduates who do not yet have family responsibilities, most of them are 21 or 22, and families and jobs are all ahead of them, and they're unencumbered by other responsibilities. You are in the midst of everything, combining work and family and study. And I'm sure you've gone through questions like, who picks up Emily from childcare? Who takes grandma to the doctor? What's for dinner? And who's going to go shopping to make sure there is dinner? So when we talk about work-life balance, you're great acrobats in being able to come close to what I think is sort of a myth, that there actually is a balance. My latest book, as has been mentioned by President Finney, is called The New Feminist Agenda, about combining work and family. So you succeeded despite the obstacles. What I'm saying in my book is that what we need is a different kind of workplace that allows more flexibility. A workplace, for example, that enables us to have affordable, quality childcare. I'm sure many of you scrambled, and that many relatives pitched in to take care of the kids when necessary. A policy that provides paid family and medical leave. What's happened in recent years is that we've had a revolution in the workplace. We've had a revolution in the family. But the workplace has not changed as much as the family has changed. The workplace still assumes somebody's home to take care of the children, to take care of the elderly, to take care of the sick. Just an example of how much families have changed. In 1950, 11.9% of women with children under 6 were in the workplace. Today, 77% of women with children under 6 are in the workplace. So that is a radical change, but the workplace has not changed accordingly. Well, I see a possible parallel, and I urge you to think about it. Just as we are here today, changing what used to be standard practice in higher education, that you had to be there a certain time, you had to be there at a certain place, you had to have a strict curriculum that followed eons of tradition. But you are the cusp of that change, saying it can be done differently. In the same way, we have to change the workplace so that the workplace can adjust itself to the changing family structure. And the key word there, as it is here, is flexibility. Flexibility that you could work from some other location than the work site. Flexibility that you could perhaps have different hours. Flexibility in being able to take care of your children. Now, one degree I see here, which I'm delighted to see, is a master's in early childhood education. Early childhood education is really one of the ways in which, you've been asked to change the world and make it a better place. Simple. But one place we can change the world and make it a better place is in early childhood education, because we've proven that 0 to 5 is the crucial time in a child's life, and we need experienced, quality educators to make that happen. Well, In addition to having been provided a new form of education, in addition to you going through a difficult, often unprecedented process to achieve it, you will also, or already are, successful. Now, how do we measure success? We can measure it in financial terms. We can measure it in terms of how your work life has changed. And we can also measure it in your intellectual awakening, or as the quote that has been mentioned, in being more alive spiritually and intellectually. Well, in financial terms, was it worth it? We've all mentioned your college debt, trying to joke about it, make you feel better. But we know it's serious, and that college debt is at an all-time high. But despite that, you took the risk to have that debt and really invest in yourself, and yes, thereby invest in your future. Well, the good news is that a college education does pay. Despite the recession and stories of graduates sleeping on the sofa in the basement of their parents, the fact is that unemployment for college graduates in April was 3.9%, compared to 7.5% for the population as a whole. College graduates are the only group that has more people employed than when the recession started. And you can just put the frosting on that cake with a graduate degree. And college-educated workers with jobs rose 9.1% since the recession began. So it pays. You did make the right decision, even though you're going to have to scrimp and save for several years before you get rid of it. Now, you were right in thinking that the more education you have on your resume, the better chance to be employed and achieve a good standard of living for yourself and your families. And you've been role models for your children in many instances. But what about the other rewards that cannot be so easily measured? The thrill of discovering new truths, the thrill of new ways of thinking, and discovering new potential in yourself, and taking the time in your busy life to enjoy the luxury of learning, usually considered a luxury. And it keeps you vibrant. It keeps you alive. It changes the dinner conversation. It makes life more interesting. So you've had a privilege that not many people have in mid-career, to really explore, understand, and take risks, not only financially, but take risks in exploring new ways of learning. Yes, you will do your work differently as a result, and you will find a reward in non-monetary ways. Now, it's already been mentioned by several speakers that with this new degree, with this new knowledge, with this new skill, comes a responsibility to try to make the world a better place, and how we could make it work better. Well, I suggest and underscore that you use your energy and knowledge to create change on your street, in your community, in your town, in your state, and in your country. You can create change in how family and work are structured. You can advocate for better child care. You can advocate for a flexible workplace. And I have to tell you, as an immigrant coming to America as a child with no expectations, except that my mother told me and my brother anything is possible in America. And it was education that opened the doors for me. And you might say, well, you're asking us to create change, but how do you expect us to do that? How does it actually happen? Well, I'll conclude with a PowerPoint. As you can see, I forgot my equipment. But this is a virtual PowerPoint. So you have to visualize it. And I ask you to visualize 3 boxes. 3 boxes that I believe lead to action. In the first box, there's something called anger. You have to be mad about something. It could be the traffic on your street. It can be, why don't they change the college loan system? It can be, why isn't anybody doing anything about global climate change? For me, one of the starting points was that my children had to cross a railroad track on the way to school here in Burlington, Vermont, and I became a worried mother, which is a pretty good catalyst for action. So you've got anger in the first box. In the second box, there's something called imagination, the ability and the permission to allow yourself to visualize change, to imagine change. And with that, I put another ingredient called empathy, the ability to walk in someone else's shoes, which every religion more or less teaches, empathy for others. Okay, first box, anger. Second box, optimism and empathy. And in the third box is something called optimism. You have a lot of reasons to be pessimistic, and we won't go into that today. But optimism is really what gives us the courage to stick our necks out, speak out at a family dinner, speak out at a town meeting, send an email to a congressperson. You have to take the risk. You have to believe when you stick your neck out, it's worth it, that something may happen. We don't always know when we do that. You know, the young men and women who sat at lunch counters in drugstores in the civil rights movement didn't know they were getting rid of segregation in this country. They knew they were in danger, and they did it. So they say that pessimists are usually right, because they're very pessimistic. But optimists change the world. So you still have the youth, you still have the energy to create effective change. And I urge you to remain optimistic, to listen to your anger, to respond to it with imagination. And I firmly believe, as my mother used to say to me and my brother, anything is possible in America. Thank you.